Just do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times by the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Glad you could join in if you're out there. There's quite a few of us doing streams this morning. But yeah, went to the Xfinity and truck race the last 2 nights. And I thought I was going to go to an Xfinity race. And I thought I was going to Martinsville. Instead, I went to the circus. What an absolute joke that was. Now, was it entertaining? Yes. But I go to be entertained, but I also go to see actual racing. And what I saw yesterday on that track, NASCAR and Martinsville have to get that fixed. I know it's not necessarily Martinsville, they're just the venue, but NASCAR has got to get these drivers in line. I absolutely think Sammy Smith should get at least 1, if not 2, race penalty and sat. I don't think Austin Hill deserved that win at all. He was a absolute wrecking ball for parts of the night. There really wasn't. There were very few drivers who were not. There were some who were actually really well behaved and actually tried to race with some type of decency and craft. And the funny thing is, it was most of the guys that were in the back of the pack. I mean, you know, at least Garrett Smitley, I don't know if he got turned, I haven't seen the video, or if he just self-spun off of 4. But he had enough mindset to at least gas his car up just enough so he didn't block the track and take out the leaders of the race. I mean, at least good heads up on him, but throughout the field, just an absolute joke. But we're not here to talk about the Xfinity race. Hopefully, the Cup drivers, and they have in the past, have seen best shows like that on Saturday, and they tend to be a little bit more behaved on Sunday because they're like, okay, the adults are back in the room. We're going to show you how to actually race and race cleanly. But we've also seen people lose their absolute heads when they get their helmet on and forget what they're doing. And we've also got a much softer tire. The opportunities for lots of passing, which means lots of rubbing, and rubbing's racing. It's part of it. But what we saw last night, or what I saw last night, was not what I wanted to see. I mean, it was entertaining. Either way, we are at Martinsville. If you need a much further driver-by-driver breakdown of past histories and things of that nature, go check out my video that I did on Friday. That goes much more into depth on the drivers and their past history. This one's going to be much more on practice and qualifying and who I am looking at taking in this race. So, join in, hit me up in the chat, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Let's roll. We don't need to cover the Miami, we did that on Friday. The track, let's talk about that. It is a 0.526 mile track, also called the Paperclip. It is an absolute short track. It is pavements everywhere except for in the corners, and you don't want to leave the concrete because it gets much more slick. And this track is going to get marbled up. That nice white concrete is going to get rubbered in, and it's going to get real dark, which means it's going to get real slick in the corners, and the tires aren't going to have as much grip. So it'll be fun. I'm excited for the race, but it's 400 laps. Dominators will absolutely play a factor. Speaking of Dominators, you also have to remember there is weather in the area. None of it looks to be severe by any means. This is a short track. They do have the wet weather option. It's not a rain tire, but it is a wet weather option. So if the track is still damp, they will go put those on and race, which could lead to maybe a little bit of what we saw last night, but maybe not. We'll see. But if the weather really moves in, this race could potentially get shortened. I think last night I was a little bit on the fence. Today I'm a little bit more. I think we get the whole race in. But, I mean, looking at the weather forecast, there is a chance that this only goes 180 laps or 200 laps or 220, which would definitely hurt any potential Dominators and then would lead to much more place differential. And you can go either way. I think I'm going to lean more towards, I think we get all 400 in. We do have lights here at Martinsville. I don't think they'll try to, once the weather really moves in and if they lose the track, I think it's probably potential they call it, because I think once the rain starts, of any real significance. I mean, if we get a little light shower here and there, it's not a big deal. But once the real system starts to move in, it's just one small rain cell after another, and I just don't think they ever get the track back, even with the wet weather tires. So keep that in mind, that this could go a little bit shorter, and the Dominator points could come down a little bit, but I'm still going to lead towards this thing gets all 400 laps in, and Dominator will absolutely play a factor. We'll quickly cover the Dominator type scenario. As you can see, for most of the optimal lineups we've had in the past, it's typically one or two Dominators that you need to focus in on. One driver who kind of qualifies up front, stays up front, and then probably three drivers who will have place differential. And that's kind of how I set most of my lineups already. I'm still not quite finished. Most of the points, we did discuss this on Friday in a little more detail, but it's kind of spread out, but not as much comes from towards the rear. But with this new softer option tire, well, not the option tire, but the new softer tire, we will see some comers and goers, which will lead to some passing opportunities, which will lead to some opportunities from the guys that are back in the 20s and 30s in starting spots to get up to the front. All right, let's get to the driver by driver breakdown as far as it goes from practice. Ryan Blaney, most expensive guy on the board, $11,200. Wow, he really struggled in qualifying. He really struggled in practice, and he was in the first practice. And the significance of the first practice is it is a very clean and green track, as they call it. So there's no rubber laid in on the corners. And Ryan Blaney was not good in practice. So the faster of the two practice sessions is the first practice session. Ryan Blaney was in the first practice session and was still not very fast. And then still missed on qualifying. Now, Ryan Blaney is very good here. As you can see, the last 5 races here, spring or fall, he has finished in the top 10 or the top 5 and has a 3.4 average finish. So can Ryan Blaney come from the back? He is going to be the highest owned driver in NASCAR DFS. I expect him to be well over 50% owned. I am right now looking at my well, not right now, but when I did the majority of my lineups this morning before coming live, I'm sitting at about 30%. So I am a slight fade on Ryan Blaney. I think he's going to come through the field, but at $11,200, that's a huge price tag. And I mean, honestly, I think maybe he gets up to 10th, and I don't know if that's going to quite be enough. Let me see if I've got I can find it, my little sheet to kind of show what that looks like. Where's my practice? It's in here. One second, everything's kind of being slower because I am streaming and I'm not at my normal spot. I'm at my best friend's house. Let's see, where is it? Oh, here it is. All right, so Ryan Blaney starting in 32nd. This kind of gives you an idea of what we need to get. But remember, Ryan's price tag is $11,200. So we need a lot more out of him than I don't know who else is starting. A Shane Van Gisbergen starting 33rd, I think. And I don't think he leads any laps, so we'll just do a handful of fast laps. I mean, that does give him 58.25 points, but if he only makes it up to, let's say, 20th, that drops it down to 37.25 points. So now let's go back to our optimal lineups here. Or actually, let's look at the... Where is my top? Here it is. So here is, to make the top 15 in Draftkings points, we're going to need at least 33 points. Well, Ryan Blaney is sitting at 37.25. Well, the optimal lineup... Where is that? He doesn't even come close to hitting the optimal lineup, especially at his price tag. Because what you're saying is Ryan Blaney, I mean, he had 91 points and still wasn't that he was third on the list, and he was really expensive. Now, you just have to keep that in mind, that price versus reward, and it's just tough. I mean, Ryan Blaney's going to have to make it up to 10th. Is that possible? Absolutely. I have a little bit of sneaky suspicion that they're struggling with something in the car. Now, 400 laps is plenty of time to make adjustments and maybe get to the field. But as we saw last night, people don't always tend to do very well. And can Ryan Blaney possibly get caught up in somebody else's mess? I mean, all it takes is, one guy to slide up in the corner, hit Ryan Blaney in the side, and break a toe link, and the day is done. Let's see, looks like I might be getting a warning. So if anybody's out there, let me know how the quality is. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, I don't know what else it says. How's the weather looking? The weather is looking more favorable for a complete race. It's spotty. I'm about 20 miles from the track. It is currently nice and sunny. Currently in Danville. Let's look at the radar real quick. I'm expecting them to get most of this race in. The line of real wet weather seems to be in mostly Kentucky, West Virginia, and it's not a real fast mover. There are a few little pop-up showers kind of floating around. Good thing we're not racing in Bristol today, because Bristol is soaking wet. And there's some storms and weather to the south, but it looks like we've got a pretty good gap, and I think we're going to be okay. But once again, if the weather moves in, it's going to be tough to get this whole thing in if weather moves in. I think we're going to be all right. It's a little bumpy, but not too bad. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm on Wi-Fi at my friend's house, not close to his router, so it was the only quiet spot that I could find to do this video. But I need to kind of wrap things, get going here, because I have to leave in about an hour for the race, and I still have a handful of lineups to do myself and get the coolers ready and everything else. So let's keep on rolling here. Kyle Larson starting in the 4th position, also very expensive, $11,000, has just as good of average finish as Ryan Blaney, and he's starting up front. Andrew Minimax winning lineup, usually under 120% not following what you're saying. Mini max winning lineups usually under 120% of ownership. Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I think what you're saying is being contrarian usually wins the mini max, which is true with most any tournaments that you're running. Cash lineups, not so much. You don't have to worry about that much on being contrarian. It's just putting the right lineup together. Ownership percentage, but still, I don't understand the 120% total ownership of all drivers of the 120%. Okay. In that specific lineup, I'm still not sure how we get to 120% ownership on anything. Either way, Kyle Larson, starting up front, his practice speeds were really good. He was one of the fastest drivers in practice 2 with 6th on single lap, 14th and 20 lap consecutive average. Did 53 laps. The track was very rubbered in. Kyle Larson's car seems to be set up and ready to go. So he's very good here. He's definitely one that I'll be targeting, maybe not to dominate. He very much can, but I see him hanging out in the top 4 or top 5 all day and getting a really good solid finish. Denny Hamlin at 10,700. I really do like Denny Hamlin today. He loves this track. He's got 5 wins on his career. He does not have a win here in the next gen era. Do I think he is one of the dominators? Very good potential. I think he is looking to have a dominant style race to kind of get his season turned right. Example, let's see, Andrew says, example, if Blaney works out, it'll be higher. Are we talking about the amount of Draftkings points? Baseline will be higher? Yeah, possibly. I mean, the thing is, you're also taking out. So let's say you've got, or looking at a lineup, and you're thinking about running 2 of the most expensive guys. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're looking at running Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney. Well, you now have spent almost 50% of the pot, or at least a third of the pot. Let's see, $22,000. You've got $28,000 left over for 4 drivers, so you're down to $7,000 per driver. And there are cases that you can do that, but that's real risky with somebody who is not great in practice and not great in qualifying and didn't really show any speed and has had a little bit of just bad luck lately, to be honest. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a complete fade on Ryan Blaney. I just don't know if I'm not going to be as sold. So I'm going to be a little contrarian with Ryan Blaney because I think I could be completely wrong. He is one of the best drivers at this track. But so is Kyle Larson. So is Denny Hamlin. I mean, you're talking about coming up from 32nd and also passing other really, really good drivers once you get into the top 10. But Denny Hamlin, I think he's looking for a spot to make a statement, and I think this race could easily play into that. William Byron at 10,400. William has been hit or miss at this track, and he was a little bit of a miss on Friday. I'm not saying that fully transfers over to Sunday, but he was consistent in practice, and that's good with this new softer tire. And starting in 10th, you get a little bit of place differential, not much, but I mean, I've got some ownership in William Byron. I'm probably going to be slightly under the field. I'm much more targeting a Denny Hamlin or Chase Elliott, who we'll get to in just one moment. Christopher Bell was fast in the first practice, but you're supposed to be fast in the first practice. The track hasn't been rubbered in yet, but as you see, by the time he gets to the 20-lap consecutive average, he falls off to 31st. Which once the track got rubbered in, he kind of slowed up. They made some adjustments. They bumped the tire pressure up, and went out and qualified and are sitting on the pole. I think Bell could be somebody who finishes top 10 still, but I'm not sure how much he dominates with some of these other guys that are starting in the top 5 with him, or how long he'll dominate. I think he could dominate the first 25, 30 laps, but once the track gets rubbered in, I think he's going to probably struggle a little bit, and until they can make some more adjustments throughout the race. He can come back up front, but Martinsville's tough. So starting from the pole, I don't know if I love this. 16.2 average finish, 16.8 for 10 total starts. I'm going to fade off of Christopher Bell. Chase Elliott, I thought earlier in the week that this just has a feel that this is a Chase Elliott type of race. I don't know why I had that feeling, but I just had a feeling that this is going to be a chance for Chase Elliott, and Chase Elliott needs a statement race. He hasn't had bad races, but he hasn't had good races, where Byron has won, Larson has won, Bowman has consistently finished in the top 5 as a recent. And Chase Elliott's kind of like, hey, hold on a second. I need to get my stuff together, and this is a great track for him to go do that. If anyone says, I think Mark's saying to bet the field, you have to be different. And the best way to be different today is to fade Blaney. He will be close, if not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and like, if you're looking at the bottom of the screen, when you see the odds come up, Blaney is still the favorite to win by Vegas. And that baffles me. And if, only 4.5 or 450, I'll take the Chase Elliott call. I think he's at like 900 or 850. I think that's a much better call. I don't see Blaney winning this race. I don't see him dominating this race. And all he has going for him, at least for us, is place differential. And at that price tag, that's really expensive. You want your place differentials to be a Michael McDowell, a John Hunter Nemechek, even though he's starting a little further up than I like, but a Shane Van Gisbergen starting 33rd is a great example of somebody who I'd much more like to target for place differential, and it's a little less risky. And I don't need as much from him. I need a ton from Blaney. I need Blaney to finish top 5 at that price tag. It's just too expensive. Joey Logano at 9,600, super consistent here. 5 of the last 5 races, he's finished in the top 10. Very consistent, starting in 7th. His practice speeds were a little bit slow, but he was in the 2nd practice session, so it's not awful. Starting in 7th, this is somebody who could easily start in the top 10, maybe even get up front with some pit strategy, even though his pit crew has been awful lately. But I think Joey Logano just sticks around all day. He's had some struggles and ups and downs, but in the last 5 races, even with those struggles, he still managed to get into the top 10. Now, it's a little tough without leading some laps and those types of things. If we kind of look at our chart here, if you're starting in 7th, let's say you just hold and maintain. Yeah, if he just holds and maintains, he beats Blaney. If Blaney finishes, what did I have, like 15th or something? Let's see. Let's do this one first. And let's say Joe Logano leads 10 laps, kind of low end, but that's 41.75. Probably not enough. I need Joey to move up a little bit for that price tag. But if he goes and leads, let's say 25 laps, we're getting a little closer. And probably to do that, he's probably going to have more of the fast laps. He'll probably have 15, let's say, fast laps. It's 50 points. That's probably enough to start and finish in 7th. So what was Blaney? 32nd to, I think we said 10th was okay, but anything further back, 5 laps, laps led, none. That's 58.25, but if he only makes it up to 15th, it's 47. It's just a lot riskier. That's all I'm saying with Blaney. So, I mean, take him if you want, but I'm going to be a fade on him. Everybody else is probably sitting out there going, you have to have him in your lineups. I don't think you have to. Family says, I love Logano today. 5.3 average finish in the next gen era. Yeah. Mine only has the last 5 races, and there's one other race that's in the next gen era. But yeah, 6th place average finish. He has, I've watched him struggle there before mid-race, but they've always been able to make the right corrections and get back up front. He's very good here. Very solid, very consistent. I mean, you look at all of the replays of all the past races, even previous generations. I mean, he was in the lead when he got in a scuffle with Matt Kenseth. It used to be him and Brad Keselowski for a while there that, definitely kind of ran up front and stayed up front at Martinsville. Chase Briscoe, 9,300. Good solid race for him last week, and this is a track that he does fairly well at, starting in 11th. His practice speeds in session 2 were, probably about average for where he's kind of qualifying, because like I said, the track had rubbered up. An 8.8 average finish. The Joe Gibbs cars are typically very good here at Martinsville. I've got some ownership in Chase Briscoe. I'm probably going to be, probably 12 to 14% on ownership with Chase Briscoe. I'm not going to go super heavy. It's not something that really makes me kind of want to take a whole lot. I think he could be there. He could not be there. I don't have much confidence or excitement for Chase Briscoe. I think it could just be a good, solid finish for him. Ross Chastain, $9,000. His average finishes here are decent. One of them happened to be the Hell Melon. But that only got him up to, I think, like 11th place. And that's all he needed. Do you think him being in a Joe Gibbs car, he can do better? He already is great here and will be even better. Yes, but the 19 team has struggled at Martinsville, even with Martin Truex Jr., who was very, very good at Martinsville. Struggled the last since the next gen era came out. So I don't know. If I'm pointing at 2 drivers that I like for Joe Gibbs, one of them's Denny Hamlin, and the other one happens to be the same name, Gibbs. I think Ty has a really, really solid run today, and I think this is a chance for him. I think this is kind of a redemption race for some of these guys. I think Ty Gibbs gets out of his slump. I think Brad Keselowski gets a little bit out of his slump. I think even though Chase Elliott's had decent finishes, he just hasn't been at the level as the rest of Hendrick, and I think this is a chance for him to kind of right the ship. Alex Bowman, 8,800, starting in 3rd. His practice speeds for the second session were a little bit on the slow side. They weren't bad, but pretty consistent. I wish I had all of my computers, my big computer here, and I could have actually run a lot more of the data and had more time. But like I said, I'm trying to get on the road here in less than an hour for the track, and I still have some lineups to do. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to really dig, other than just kind of really listen and look at what it was, and watching practice helped a lot yesterday. But Alex Bowman, 8,800, starting in 3rd. I think he's just starting a little too far up, and his average finish is 16th here. He's okay. He does have the win here, but that was kind of a fluky pit stop thing, and he kind of had to steal it from Denny a little bit, so kind of drove a little over his head. Austin Cindric, 8,500, starting in 20th. He was not good in practice. He was in the second session. He improved a little bit on his 20-lap consecutive average. Starting in 20th, this is not one of his better tracks. I think this is kind of he holds his own, and if something happens up front and he's able to gain a few positions, he will. I just don't know if this is the track that Austin Cindric comes up and leads a bunch of laps or finishes top 5. I mean, sure, capable, but he did it. He did it in the fall. But we also have to remember the entire Penske organization was really, really good for that fall race last year. So I think you can take some Austin Cindric, but he's a little expensive and is not awesome here. I mean, here's another driver that's looking to make a statement. I just don't know if, I mean, Kyle Busch notoriously is not great here. He does have 2 wins in his career, but he has also struggled at this track more so than a lot of other tracks, just like he did at Miami last week. He's always had a little bit of a struggle at that track, and Martinsville's no different for him. He was decent in practice, but he was in the first practice, so there's, once the track gets really rubbered in, that's where Kyle Busch really, really struggles. And he even had an interview earlier. You can go check it on Jeff Gluck's, or no, Bob Pockris interviewed him. It's on X Twitter. And he was saying, yeah, we seem to be better, but we've kind of struggled here in the past. But I'll have some Kyle Busch, but I'm not going very. I'm probably going to be about where I am with Briscoe, probably somewhere between 10 and 15% ownership. So, Josh Berry, starting 14th. Practice speeds in the second session were not great. His 20-lap average did come up, which is very consistent of Josh Berry at a style of track like this with high tire wear. And since the softer tire is wearing and marbling, Josh Berry typically, his stock goes up because this really fits his wheelhouse really well. So I like Josh Berry for a top 10 finish. And let's say he finishes 8th or 9th, starting in 14th. What does that give us in points? 14th. And I think he'll have some fast laps because he'll have some tire left over. What did I say? He finishes 7th. That's 46.25. And, at $8,100, I like the Josh Berry call. I think he may get slightly overlooked, but everybody knows that he does run Martinsville a little bit better and does have a win here in the Xfinity Series. So this place is a little bit special to him. So I think, and the Wood Brothers shop is literally, now the cars are typically built at Penske and then sent to the Wood Brothers shop, but it's only about 45 minutes up in the mountains. So Brad Keselowski, 7,900, looking for a race to bounce back at. This is a great spot for him to bounce back. He has run this track fairly well in the past, and I think if the car is underneath him, he'll have a great day, and I think there's a good opportunity for some place differential here with Brad, and I'm willing to take more of a shot on with Brad than I am with Ryan Blaney. Now, I'm probably not going to be 30%, because Brad has had some inconsistencies, but I will have some ownership in Brad. Man, love the sneaky Berry pick. Yep. I think Berry's a great one to be sneaky with. I will not be sneaky with Tyler Reddick. There is nothing sneaky here. He has struggled mightily at Martinsville in the past, and I don't think that changes today. Average finish of 25th, and his 10 total starts, his average finish is almost 21st. And his practice speeds in the second go-around are not a great indication that he should be starting 9th. He should be starting somewhere around 18 or 20, and I think he'll be lucky to get a top 10. I think he'll be lucky to get a top 15. So I could be completely wrong on this, but I am off of Tyler Reddick. Ryan Preece, who loves Martinsville, $7,500, starting 21st. He was 8th in the second practice session, which was just a tick behind Kyle Larson in the slower group of practice because the track had gotten rubbered up. He did slow down to 21st on the 20-lap consecutive average. Not bad, though, starting 21st. He has an average finish of 14.5. I really, really like the Ryan Preece pick. I think he'll also be somewhat owned, but I'll probably be even on the field. I'll be about 20% or so with Ryan Preece. Chris Buescher starting in 6th. He's starting a little too far up. I think he could still be real quiet all day and just get a solid top 10 finish. And I just don't know if that's enough starting in 6th, and his practice speeds just really weren't something I thought were phenomenal. His fall off was not as bad as others, but I'm probably a fade off of Chris Buescher. Just I don't think there's a huge upside. I don't know if Chris Buescher goes up and leads 100 laps today. And starting in 6th, you kind of need some laps led, and I'm not sure that that's in the cards. Bubba Wallace, though, first and second practice session, second overall in 20-lap consecutive run. He loves his car. He's got incredibly high spirits. Bob Pockris also interviewed him, and Bubba just looked happy. And a happy Bubba is, I mean, as we've seen the last few weeks, he has been up front and running really well. He's not quite getting the finish he wants or needs, but he has run this track very, very well in the past. I think this is an opportunity we could see Bubba Wallace potentially win this race. And I think he probably is a solid top 5. So I will have some ownership in Bubba. I think because of where he's qualified, he may be a little less owned. So I might be slightly over the field. Ty Gibbs, I think this absolutely is a bounce back race for Ty Gibbs. And I could be completely wrong because he has just absolutely sucked recently. But he was 11th in the first practice, or in the first practice he was 11th fastest on short, the single lap, but he was first in the 20-lap consecutive average. And in his interviews, he seems to be pretty confident and he kind of likes his car. You also have to remember the last 2 Xfinity before yesterday's show. The 2 Xfinity races last year that Eric Almirola won, the crew chief, I can't remember his name, is now the crew chief for Ty Gibbs. Maybe that transfers over. I think it does. Guys crew chiefs that understand short tracks, like Rodney Childress, understood short tracks, and every time that Kevin Harvick would show up to a short track, he would do well. We'll see if that translates over, but I think Ty Gibbs has a bounce back day today. So I think he probably gets overlooked being in 13th and having the last 10 races being abysmal. But I do like Ty Gibbs today. Noah Gragson, 24th. I'd like the place differential here with Noah, but his average finishes at Martinsville have not been phenomenal. He did much better in Xfinity, and it just hasn't transferred over yet. I honestly, I put Noah as like a 17th or 18th place driver, and I think the price tag's too extensive for that little of a place differential move. So Daniel Suarez, kind of in the same boat, starting in 26. I'll have some ownership just in case they are able to pull off a top 10. But the practice speeds were not great, especially in the faster practice. His average finishes here are not that great. So I don't have a whole lot of ownership. I will have some because there is some place differential, but this has not been a track that has been a great track for Daniel in the past. Carson Hocevar. Now he was in the first practice session, which was faster. He was fourth fastest, but his 7th lap consecutive average is good. He seems to be pretty solid, and he's had, maybe this is another. I hate to keep saying bounce back because all these guys can't all have bounce back days, but Carson Hocevar is definitely looking to right the ship. And I think if he just takes his time and doesn't abuse his equipment and doesn't do sometimes what Carson Hocevar does is stupid stuff, and his spotter really is able to kind of rein him in a little bit and just be like, hey, you've got a great car, keep it underneath you, keep the tires underneath you, and let's go have a solid day. I think Carson Hocevar gets up to, a 12th or 13th place finish. And at 6,600, that's a much better bargain than double the price, or almost double the price, for Ryan Blaney trying to do the same thing. So Austin Dillon, 6,500, starting in 18th. I think that's probably about where Austin Dillon ends up finishing. His practice speeds were not great. He was in the slower second practice, but there's nothing here that makes me go, ooh, there's an opportunity. Now, I think he probably gets pretty low owned, but I'm not sure that Austin Dillon sneaks a top 5, maybe top 10. He did finish 7th in the fall race last year, so maybe, but nothing's screaming at me saying take Austin Dillon. Like I said, I'm not a fade. I'm not also heavy on it either. Cole Custer, I do like some Cole Custer today, and I think he is a sneaky pick. Starting in 22nd, he was 5th fastest in the first practice, 3rd in the 20-lap consecutive average, but he does have one start where he had a 15th place finish. But his average running position that day was 5.5. The Haas cars at Martinsville previously have all done very well. So if they still have the notes, maybe there's a little something sneaky here with Cole Custer. So I do like the Cole Custer pick. Eric Jones starting in 31st. I mean, there's a decent amount of place differential. But once again, this has just been kind of a tough year. Go Alex Bowman, NASCAR. I mean, he's got a shot at a win. He's starting 3rd. I just don't know how much I'll take him in Draftkings. I don't love it as a Draftkings play, but as a Cup race, I think you could easily bet him top 5, top 10 today. I think it definitely has that capability. But in DraftKings, if he's 3rd and you're going against some pretty heavy hitters today, I think Bowman's much more of like an 8th place finish. That's 5 spots of negative place differential that doesn't work well in DraftKings. But I don't mind betting him maybe for a top 10. Eric Jones starting in 31st, just hasn't ever been really that good here. He doesn't have any top 10s in the last 5 races, and he's only got one top 10 in his entire history at Martinsville. So can he get up into the high teens? Possibly. Is that enough? Maybe. Like I said, I'm not going to be a complete fade on Eric Jones, but I'm not going super heavy. I'll probably be pretty even with the field, probably somewhere like 15% ownership. Michael McDowell at $6,100 starting in 15th. This place is not good for Michael McDowell. I think he's starting way too far up. His practice speeds were not great. His average finishes are not great. He has always kind of struggled here. I will be a fade on that. AJ Allmendinger starting in 23rd. His average finishes are 26.3 and his average running position is 24.6, and I think that's kind of where we get. AJ has a tendency to get a little frustrated and a little hot under the collar, and Martinsville is notorious for, as we saw yesterday in the Xfinity race, you cannot let that happen. And it's just, this isn't a good setup for AJ. So I think his string of top 10s that he's been on lately, I think comes to an end, and I think he probably finishes where he starts, if not worse. So I'll be a fade. SVG, man, talk about bad luck. They've got to figure out why he keeps blowing tires, and I don't think it's necessarily his driving. I think it's the car setup. I think they're getting too aggressive. I think they need to dial it back and just keep the car under him. They did that in the fall last year, and Shane ended up with a 12th place finish. Starting in 33rd, I mean, what he needs to do is maybe just follow Ryan Blaney and see what Ryan Blaney is doing and learn a little bit early in this race if he can keep up with Ryan. But this is definitely just keep your head in the game. Hopefully don't get involved in anybody else's stuff and stay on the lead lap and end up in 20th. Well, 13 spots of place differential at 5,900 isn't exactly what you're looking for, but this is where the cheap range that you're looking for to make up that place differential for taking the heavy hitters up top. Justin Haley, who has always struggled here, I mean, the luck has not changed for Justin Haley. He had the hood fly up during practice, and they had to repair that. He went out and qualified 30th. His average finish is 29th here. He's never finished in the top 20. Even being in the 7 car, I'm going to be a fade on Justin Haley. There's nothing here that even remotely says take him. Same thing with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 34th. I will take some shots on Ricky because at least his average finish is 19.8. So 14 places of place differential, good possibility, but don't love the play by any means. I'll be 10 to 15% ownership there. Todd Gillen at 5,600 starting in 25th. Average finish of 17.6. You could take some shots here. And in fact, I probably need to go put him in some of my lineups because I don't have much ownership in Todd Gillen. So I don't mind taking some Todd Gillen. He was decent in practice. His 20 lap speed was not great. But I don't have the full breakdown on if there was a lap or two at the end there that he was dealing with something or somebody else that could have slowed him down. It's always hard to say. But 17.6 average finish, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s. Okay, at 5,600. Same thing with Riley Herbst. Herbst has always run this track fairly well in the Xfinity Series. I'm not sure how much that transfers over, but starting in 35th, we've got, keep your car underneath you. Don't keep your head with you. Do what I'm saying SVG does. So with Riley Herbst, I don't mind taking it there. Zane Smith is starting too far up, and it's just, I think he's 25th at best. If he could surprise me, but I'm not willing to take the chance on it. John Hunter Nemechek, same thing. I think this is kind of a race that the streak of good runs for John Hunter may run out. Now, I'm not a complete fade either because he is on a hot streak, or he's on a really good warm streak of good finishes. Maybe they've turned the corner. John Hunter has run this track very, very well in the Xfinity Series, has a win here. So I'm not a complete fade, but I'm probably under 10% ownership. Ty Dillon starting in 28th has an average finish of 29.3. Practice speeds in the early session were okay, but not overall, because that is the faster of the two practices. If you really have to dig down deep, you can go with a Ty Dillon, or maybe even a Cody Ware. But his practice speeds were fast, but it was first practice, and he was one of the first cars out. Now, his 20-lap average actually ended up being fairly good. So if you've really got to dig deep, you can go with some Cody Ware. We do have two new guys, which this is just another bad mistake by NASCAR. These guys should not be in this race. They should have been in the truck race or the Xfinity race. I know Casey Mears used to run NASCAR all the time, and he's going to keep himself clean, and he's going to do the right things, but he's going to be slow. The pit crew is going to be slow. They're going to be many laps down. It's just, it's not a good thing. So, yes, Ryan Blaney is absolutely ranked number 1, but I will be fading off of Ryan Blaney. I'll still have ownership in him, but I'm not going to be at 50%. I'm going to be in the probably 30% range, maybe 25%, where I'm still saying I'm calling the shot. This is Chase Elliott's race. I think he dominates. I think he wins. I think Bubba has a great race. If for some reason Chase slips a little. So I think Bubba Wallace is there at the end. Also, I think early in this race, you could easily see Chase Elliott lead a lot of laps. I think Kyle Larson holds serve and kind of gets himself a top 5 finish. And same thing with Joey Logano. Now, so it really comes down to, you could take those guys. Now you got to figure out who do you take in the back. That's an SVG. That is maybe an Eric Jones. Brad Keselowski for some place differential, and I really do like the Carson Hocevar play. So that's kind of my 2 cents on everything. All right, I have about 18 minutes longer than I wanted to go with this video, but I also wanted to talk about that clown show of a race yesterday. So that covers everything. If anybody's got any questions, thoughts, or concerns, I will try to reply, but more than likely I will be busy driving to the track and enjoying adult beverages. So good luck. Hopefully you end up hitting this weekend. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate everybody tuning in for a shortened edition on a Sunday afternoon. Have a great weekend and good luck. Thanks. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Mac. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you. Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal, we got it here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.